Welcome, YouTube. You're here at Vedius's channel where he commonly does VOD reviews. Some have claimed it to be the greatest VOD reviews of all time. Others have claimed it to be an acceptable use of an hour. Regardless of your opinions, you're here and you're watching, and I'm grateful to have you here. Now, for those that aren't able to watch live, thank you again for checking out the VOD, but you're really missing out in the live experience, so I would recommend you tune in. Normally every Monday, I recognize this is a Thursday, but normally every Monday at 6 p.m. CEST, and you get to be a part of my wonderful chat, where they ask me really intense questions, such as, who cuts my hair, and what color is that t-shirt that you're wearing? So if you want to be part of the action, come along and sit with Twitch chat and have some fun. Right, we're here for Splyce versus Fnatic. This game is from week 9. We're going to be looking at how these two teams stacked up against one another. I'm going to pop my fan on because for some reason, every time I do this, I get really warm. Yeah. So this is from week 9. I remember casting this game. I thought it was a close and exciting, which is cool. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe I got bought too much into the hype. So we're going to look at the draft. We're going to watch the game. We're going to figure out if it was actually a good game of League of Legends or not. And, you know, we can set some expectations for both these teams coming into playoffs. So let's get straight into the draft. So for Splyce, they decided to start off with... Oh, and before I forget, like, a lot of these VOD reviews, I usually don't look at the chat. I'm going to try and look at the chat a little bit more, try and engage with the chat, try and answer some questions, because if they have questions, maybe the viewers at home watching the VOD might also have some questions, so you can have those coming your way. So, starting with Splyce, they decided to ban away Twisted Fate, Yuumi, and Xayah. So no real surprises if you follow the European scene at all. Twisted Fate is definitely a target ban towards Nemesis, one of his go-to champions, probably his most played in the split. Yuumi ban just suggests that Splyce don't want to first pick it, and they also know that if it's available, Fnatic will definitely lock it in. And Xayah also suggests that Splyce do not want to lock in Xayah Rakan in the first rotation, and they don't want to give it away to Fnatic, who definitely will. They could have chosen to ban away the Rakan here, and I'm a little surprised that they didn't, but I guess they considered Rakan, what's the word, like manageable, whereas they didn't think of a good matchup or way of dealing with Reckless Xayah. So, fair enough. Nothing too crazy there. Fnatic with the Qiyana, Nautilus, and Sylas ban. Now the Qiyana definitely directed towards the duo of Xerxes and Humanoid. A champion that is very strong and very capable hands. Nautilus as an answer to potentially Rakan, but it's also something that North Carolina loves to play, provides you a lot of safety, melee engaged support, also does very well into things like the Rakan that Fnatic will likely try to prioritize, so that makes sense. And then the Sylas ban, he's just a generic, safe, solid ban. I don't think it's targeted anywhere in particular, I just think they wanted to take it off the board. So Splyce immediately answered with a Corki. I remember saying in the draft, I think one of the big things was that Fnatic don't actually play Azir, or at least they haven't so far this split in the mid lane. So by taking the Corki, you force Fnatic onto something different. And we can see as we get later into the draft that they actually chose not to go for Azir. So a potential pinpoint where maybe you don't need to ban Azir against this team. Maybe they don't play it. So interesting learnings there. But Corki, very safe blind. Obviously something the Humanoid is very comfortable on. So no stress. Fnatic decided to go for Kai'Sa Rakan. Now the Rakan pick should come as no surprise to anyone that may be familiar with Hylissang. It's something that he loves to play. He's very confident on it. And it's a core part of how Fnatic succeed as well. Pardon me. The Kai'Sa right now, in Europe at least, is considered a safe blind pick. It was actually adopted from the LPL meta, where over in the LPL, they pick things like Lucian and Draven and Kai'Sa, and they're basically just champions that struggle to lose lane. They're pretty safe. They can afford to have their support roam, and they're likely not just going to get obliterated. They've also got good scaling. They pretty much scale really well. Like, they have a solid mid game. They have a really good late game. Kai'Sa, all round, just a very solid pick right now. Probably not OP. Probably not, well, definitely not underpowered, but sits in that happy medium where if you have to blind pick an AD carry, you can pick Kai'Sa. Now, the Gangplank blind pick surprised me from Splyce because I imagine that they were afraid of an Aatrox lock-in next. So they wanted to get Gangplank now before it was banned away. Now it also allows you to play through the bot side of the map. It gives Vizicachi a champion that he can just sit there, play safe on, and not stress about too much. But I am surprised that they blind picked it. I feel like there are a lot of answers to Aatrox should it still be left open. Excuse me. Yeah, I was quite surprised by the Gangplank. But my logic is that Splyce assumed that Fnatic would go for Aatrox. And if Fnatic locked in Aatrox, then Splyce would want Gangplank as an answer. Therefore, they preemptively lock in the Gangplank and say, regardless of what he picks, we can just play safe top side of the map. And if you've seen the game, you'll know that's not quite what happens. In any case, they also then lock in the Sejuani. So far, Splyce with Sejuani Corki have a good foundation to build upon. I think they have good scaling, they have good engage, their early game definitely isn't weak. The Gangplank pick definitely I find a little bit confusing, but at the same time, it is relatively safe in the top lane, and you don't have to stress about it too much. The Gragas answer from Fnatic. The first thing I noticed was that Fnatic suddenly have a lot of AP damage now, so they could be considering an AD mid lane. That's why they lock in the early Gragas, but also they're afraid of their jungle pool getting pinched. And they wanted to lock in something that provides both engage, disengage, has a solid early game. But honestly, the Gragas pick surprised me a little bit. I'm not sure why they felt the need to pick Gragas here into the Sejuani. I know that Sejuani outscales things like the Lee Sin, and I guess they felt that they didn't have a strong enough early game to go for the Elise. Now, Skarner on this patch should be stronger, and if I was Fnatic, I would consider picking something like a Skarner, but even then, picking Skarner into Gangplank always a little dangerous. So even then, even if they thought about the Skarner, maybe they just felt that Gragas was the next best bet. So, I mean, when we look at it all, when you're thinking about junglers, Gragas does make sense. So then we move into the second phase of bans. The Volibear Ban did also surprise me, but at the same time, Fnatic like, you know what? We know that Norscaran plays this. We don't want to have to deal with it. I'm not sure if it's good or not into Rakan. I'm not entirely sure if the knockback on Volibear's E actually interrupts any dashes or anything from Rakan. It may very well do, or it may just be an obnoxious matchup they don't have to do it. So, in any case, Volibear taken away from Norscaran on support. The Lucian ban also is someone that can exert a lot of pressure in the early laning phase. And Fnatic like, well, we're running Kai'Sa, we're running Rakan. We're not the strongest 2v2 duelist, especially in the early game, so no Lucian for you. Aatrox and Akali should come as no surprise. Both very strong in the current meta. They didn't ban them in the first phase. Fnatic chose not to pick them, so they just take away more of the comfort picks from Fnatic. Then the Urgot pick comes in. This surprised everyone, especially me, because I was like, Urgot hasn't had any buffs recently. He's literally not been touched. The last time, like, he's only been nerfed. And then all of a sudden he comes back. And Bwipo was like, yeah, no, it's fine. It'll work. And I thought to myself, what the hell? This comp is really weird. But the reason why I thought it was weird is because I haven't seen Urgot in so long, and not too long ago Urgot was like a staple blind pick, so it's definitely surprised me. Now, I'm not sure if there's much more I want to say. Volley, so someone from the chat. Volley is a hard cancel Rakan, only downside is it doesn't scale. Okay, that's fine. I thought, like, you would assume that it's a good matchup, which explains why Fnatic would ban it away. So yeah, and I'm aware that Volibear is a champion, like, really strong in lane, outside of lane, not that useful. Which is why in my head I'd be like, you really scared of the Volibear? I could understand if you were afraid of, like, Lucian Volibear, but once you get out of laning phase, Volibear really doesn't do anything. Unless you pair him up with something like a Kalista, in which case it's a little bit more obnoxious then. In any case, I'm not sure if there's much more to say on the Urgot. I don't have a lot of context behind why they chose to pick it in this situation. I know Bwipo talked a little bit about it, but I'm not really up to date on where the Urgot pick came from. When we think about it relative to the comp, it gives you a little bit more AD damage. It's strong in terms of 1v1. It always has been. I honestly don't know how well Urgot scales, but what we saw in this game was just that he never dies. And because he does percentage HP damage, he can never die, deal a decent amount of damage later on as well. And he also has his execute and a potential huger AoE fear later on into the game. So I think he scales relatively well. In a side lane, I don't think he's going to be a huge threat. But I don't think the goal of this comp is to sit in a side lane. I think it's very much to group and fight, especially when you look at the Cassio. What I do find interesting is Fnatic's answer to the Corki is the Cassio, and we can see the Azir was left up all the way through the draft, yet Nemesis chose not to go for it. Does suggest that maybe they don't play Azir. Could be that they don't think Azir is that strong. Could be that Nemesis... Like, the thing is, I also thought that Nemesis can play Azir, he just hasn't. So they don't want to for whatever reason. And he picks Cassio. And I don't think Cassio is necessarily bad in Corki. I think they both scale very well. I think Cassio has a slightly weaker early game, because she's like very mana reliant in order to like gain pressure in terms of trading health anyway. But yeah, then Tristana Alistar. I think that's a really good duo as an answer to Kai'Sa Rakan. You have a lot of all-in power. It's an easy lane to play through. And then once you get package on Corki, you can maybe even look to roam bot. So when we look at the whole comps in their entirety, you can see like from a matchup perspective, both sides made sense. The Gangplank, very questionable, because obviously, given that Fnatic didn't lock in Aatrox, they now have a Gangplank that they've line picked, and it gives Fnatic an easy way to get a winning matchup, which ends up being the Urgot. Mid lane is pretty even. I would say that Corki has the ability to get the early push. Whether or not he will is debatable, because he has to be careful about early Gragas gank. I love the Splyce. They have a bot layer that they can quite easily play through once they hit 6 on the Sejuani, and once the Corki can actually look to roam with the package. You also have the Gangplank ultimate as well. We talked a little bit about it in the actual game cast, where I felt like Fnatic wanted to play through top and Splyce wanted to play through bot. Pardon me, in the early laning phase. God, I'm so sorry. I make so many just random noises with my mouth, whether it be yawning, coughing, burping, weird screeching noises. I apologize. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about it outside of just holding my breath. But that wouldn't be too convenient, and we wouldn't get much done, would we? So, I think both comps want to scale. Both comps want to team fight. And I think we talked a little bit about it in the cast. Like, the thing about these comps is they're pretty straightforward. In terms of execution, is largely dependent on who wins in the end. I think that Splyce have the ability to play split push more because they're running both a Corki and a Gangplank, whereas Cassio is not the best split pusher. Not that her damage or anything is lacking, but because she lacks mobility, extending in a side lane is really dangerous, because the risk of you getting collapsed is very high. And Urgot, I feel like in a 1 versus 1 against Gangplank later into the game, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not entirely sure, but I could see Urgot falling off a little bit. His damage not being as potent, especially given that Bwipo did go full tank. But in any case, both teams really want to fight. I do believe that Fnatic have the slightly stronger team fight comp, just because of Gangplank versus Urgot. However, that's not to say that Splyce's comp can't fight. What I have noticed is that Fnatic decided to match the scaling from Splyce. For a lot of Fnatic's drafts, we've been seeing a lot of early to mid game comps, whereas this time around they actually decided to go much more late game. So their interpretation was that Splyce wouldn't be able to snowball a successful early game lead, and that they can just out team fight them later, which is largely what I think we ended up seeing. But in any case, does anyone have any questions regarding the draft? Vedius, do you agree that Cass is a really good pick here, in particular with Triss plus Corki, and to a lesser extent Seju and Ali? I mean, I think you put a little too much weight on the miasma. Yes, there is potential for it, given the how reliant Splyce's comp is on escapes, and that miasma is really useful. And she also did get small buffs. But I think in isolation, in terms of the 1v1 matchup, she's not the strongest. I think it's really difficult to kill the Corki, especially given that he can itemize early magic resistance. In the context of the comp, a little bit of additional CC is always valuable to follow up from the Rakan and Gragas. So I think the Cassio makes sense. Do I think that it's a good pick? I think there's room for debate. I'm just tired. I swear I'm not bored. I'm just really tired. One of the reasons why they picked GP is probably because Bwipo play a lot of GP. I don't think that's the reason. I mean, it could be. It's a shared champion that both want to get their hands on. But I think it's more to do with the fact that Splyce want to blind pick something and they assume that Fnatic will go for the Aatrox. Because, to be fair, Fnatic have this tendency of first rotating one of their carries. It's super common for them. I just explained the GP thing. What do you think of a Kali ban when Fnatic have never played a Kali this split? Yeah, but they still have the ability to. And if you're thinking, like, a lot of people actually play Kali into Corki because she outscales him on a side lane, and at level 6 she actually has kill pressure. And with the Gragas, there's a real possibility that they could run it mid. They could also run it top into Gangplank. I think Gangplank can do pretty well into the Akali, but at the same time, same thing. Scaling, pretty good for Akali. Eventually she'll get to a point where she just murders you. So why risk it? Just take it off the board. Ban it. How valuable was the TF ban? Debatable. I think it's pretty good. If you can limit Nemesis's ability to roam, then I think you're doing a good job. I watch Nemesis stream a lot. He plays, they don't pick it. Yeah, I mean, I've seen Nemesis play a bunch of stuff that they don't play. I don't know why, but there we are. Anyway, that's enough about the draft. Let's watch some League of Legends gameplay. Let's see what happens. We're going to speed it up. We're going to turn Medic down because my voice is also there. Wait, what brilliant things do I say?
Very back and forth skirmish heavy game. We'll see what
do I say? What do I say?
It was a messy game the last time they played Medic. That was when that was helaSang's probably worst performance at the split. I feel him and Broxah had a really poor game.
I agree, Vedius.
And Splyce did a great job of punishing it, but it was very back and forth. Both teams could have won it, but in the end, it was Splyce that ended up having the better late game team fighting. And when we look at this comp, they do have.
That's a good point, Vedius. I really agree. This guy's really smart. Really, really smart. Anyway, let's actually watch this level 1. Let's have a look at what they do. So we noticed that Splyce group up bot side of the map. I think one of the main reasons for this is because of this guy. This cheeky guy right here. Rakan is known for doing some pretty creative level 1s. We've seen a bunch of them from G2 specifically, but Fnatic are no strangers to crazy level 1s. So I think one of the reasons why they just group here is in case helaSang tries to sneak in behind anywhere. Meanwhile, you have the Corki kept in mid lane to make it look like, ooh, nothing mysterious going on here. So, yeah. Oh, Medic is in the chat. Anyway. So, let's have a look. And then they all disengage. There's vision pings. Fnatic's like, whoa, 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 whoa. So, the problem is, remember what I said in the draft. Early game expectations, Broxah wants to play towards top side of the map, Xerxes wants to play towards bottom side of the map. Xerxes could also look for ganks mid lane, because if you burn a flash from Cassio early, it's really good. So we can see that Reckless and helaSang don't give their jungler a pull, as we expected. Broxah would start topside. He's going to go into his Krogs, probably Raptors, and then he'll either look to base for early. So what he can do is he can base, get boots, and then he can go top river to secure the Scuttle Crab. And then he can play around his top side of the map if he wants. But we can see the Cassio has actually gone early priority. Okay. A little surprising, but I suppose it does make sense. Ooh, Broxah. What's he doing? What's he up to? Is he going for a bit of a split map? That ward came just after he passed him. Oh, Vizichachi messed up. Okay, so there are these things called shotgun legs. You may be familiar with them. See that? But boom! Those shotgun legs. Vizichachi did not respect the amount of damage that was outcoming. And notice how when Whippo flashes, 2 actually proc. We can slow it down. Come on, get to it. So look at this. Look at this. So he has one here, and he has one here as well. See, so you see, bang, bang, double shot. So Vizichachi doesn't have an opportunity to flash. See, there's one, there's two. There's one, there's two. Cool, right? Kills him before he has an opportunity to react. That's why his hands were in his head, because he was like, "Duh, I wasn't expecting that much damage." But Whippo, mechanical god. So we can see that Fnatic have early prior bot because Rakan is a little bit ranged versus Norscaran, who's a little more melee. Ooh, Broxah, you cheeky. Of course, because his top laner got an early kill, he's allowed to invade like this because his top laner has push. So Broxah is able to do a bit of a split map, and he's going to be able to 3 buff Xerxes, so that's pretty good. Xerxes now looking for a potential dive top because Bwipo hasn't had the opportunity. Props to Broxer. Paths up towards top side to cover for his top laner because there's a real risk of a dive. So like something you always have to be careful of is if you see a wave stacking, there's a real risk of a dive. And Xerxes recognizes it, so does Broxer. Both junglers here. The dive is stopped. Bwipo walked away with his life. Oh! Okay, so already this game is a little ridiculous because very rarely do you actually see people solo killing each other. But Vizicachi died top 1v1, and then Hylissang dies bot 2 versus 2. See, this is what makes me laugh, right? You know, I had this lengthy discussion with Veteran yesterday about how he thinks Hylissang should be MVP of the split, and then you just watch him run it down. Obviously, one game shouldn't be used as a reference for the entire split. It's just a joke, guys. Don't take me so seriously. But, I mean, hey, if you want to call Veteran an idiot, who am I to stop you? Don't call him an idiot. Alright, let's have a look. So, Hylissang tries to all in. Well, I say all in. He tries to get some poke damage onto this duo. Gets a really good knock-up. But, wait. Is Norscarin a god? Let's look at Norscarin. Yeah, I'm right. He just as it comes through, you don't see the animation, but he's actually knocked him up because you can see... Wait. Yeah, there it is. There's the airborne. So the animation starts from Norscarin. He reacts just in time to get the knock up onto Hylissang. Whew! That's cool. I didn't spot that before. So because the animation is delayed, and of course Hylissang's in his animation, which he can't get out of, but of course Norscarin has already started his knock-up animation. So the CC comes through, he then lands before Hylissang does, and then he gets to knock him back. And then Hylissang has to flash, take all this damage, and then because they're level 3, Kobe can just be like, bum, 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 dead. And the 2v2 is won. Props to Norscarin, that was great. But also, a little trolling from Hylissang. Just a little. Just a little. Okay. What were the junglers doing in this time? What were the junglers doing in this period of time? So, top laner got his buff stolen. Yeah, that was happening. So after the replay, I actually learned nothing about what the junglers doing. It looks like they both reset. So Sejuani's down in this awkward spot, which is like, I have no camps to clear. My bot side of the map should be respawning soonish. Oh yeah, it's actually respawning now. Okay, that's fine then. Never mind. Ignore me! Xerxes fine. He's obviously going to be a bit behind in XP because Broxer can do like wait. Yeah, I was going to say, you don't get to do that, mate. Your mid lane is basing. That's a little dangerous. I'm surprised Broxer got away with that. But alright. Why is he invading? Okay, now I don't agree with Broxer's decision making. He should definitely clear out the bot side of his map. Oh, but he's actually stealing away the raptors. He's stealing away the raptors. I mean, he knows that they should be spawning soon. And so he gets visual on Xerxes and he makes this steal happen. So he's just putting Xerxes further and further and further behind in the early game. It's good stuff. Now he can clear his whole bot side jungle and rotate back up to top. Of course, Bwipo can play as freely as he wants because he knows where the enemy jungler is. But summon spells are unavailable for Hylissang. So now, Xerxes, want to try and play through bot lane a little bit more. We did see him obviously attempt a gank, but didn't quite work out. Nemesis, meanwhile, actually building. Maybe I'm. Oh, I mean, to be fair, once you're level 6, I can very easily see the Cassio beating out on the Corki. His range isn't super long, which means that every time he tries to approach the wave, you get poisoned. Nemesis looking for a bit of a roam, but there was a ward there, my man. So he does get spotted out. Okay. Gragas just hanging around. I really wish Broxer would go clear stop side. There we go. Alright. And Xerxes still playing through bot. I like this. I like this a lot. He shouldn't have been spotted yet. He's only level 5 right now. How much knowledge don't you show in this kind of replays reviews? I mean, I'm showing you all the knowledge that I have. I'm afraid if there's more, I don't got it. There's definitely still more for me to learn about the game, but it reaches a certain point where I think it just goes too above and beyond the head of the players, and they don't actually learn anything. It's not valuable for me as a caster, so I try not to think about it. Did Broxer know Xerxes was going bot to take Raptors? Let's find out. Let's watch Broxer. So bear in mind, right? Broxer is pretty confident, or he should be pretty confident. Right, let's go to here, right? Alright. Wait for this thing to disappear. So Broxer should be... Okay, so Broxer sees Sejuani there, right? Yes, he does. So he pings it, they both get spotted out. He knows right now that Zeus is on his Croaks. He knows he is. And he's warned the enemy bot lane, hey, he's in the bot side of the map. So Broxer very brazenly gets spotted invading. Now, this invade in and of itself is risky. But he knows that Splyce, the Xerxes is on the bot side of the map. Which means that, like... He could have been collapsed here, but to be fair, like, his mid laner was pushing anyway, so you can see the mid laner just TP's back. Corki hasn't had an opportunity. Okay, so that's the biggest thing. I call it greedy, but I'm wrong. Because the reality is, even if Humanoid collapses here, Nemesis has just completed a base. So even though it's only a tier, he's now refreshed all of his cooldowns. His mana is fully stocked, his health is fully stocked, he has potions. He's in a great spot, right? He also has all this extra mana to play with, which means that should Broxer and Nemesis find themselves in a skirmish early, especially with the caster in general, they're going to win. So I think Broxer takes advantage of the fact that his mid laner has already started pushing, and Humanoid is forced to play on the back foot because his jungler is bot. So it's like it's this double-edged thing where Nemesis tries to push, and he sees Humanoid back away. So if Humanoid is backing away, that suggests that his jungler isn't there to help cover him, right? So they kind of work in tandem with each other, and then Brox is able to get that steal to deny Xerxes even more jungle experience. So to answer your original question to the person who asked it in Twitch chat, yes, Broxer knew where Xerxes was, and he also recognized that his mid laner was strong enough to support him should anything occur, so he was safe to make that invade. So there we go. Viewers are too dumb to understand the game concepts? Nah. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's a point at which game knowledge becomes less valuable to people, I think. Like, having spoken to some analysts, like, for example, I had lengthy conversations with an analyst about how one resets on the map. And I can explain the concept at the very end of the stream if people are interested. But basically, like, it's at a level with which is never going to be that useful for your average player. Even a high elo player that might find it interesting, like, it's just, like, it's so specific and not super useful that if you're trying to get better at as a League of Legends team at a pro level, there's value in it. But talking about it, it's really difficult to explain. It's difficult to do on the fly, and like, I just don't see the value in it. I, as a high diamond League of Legends player, gain no value from it. So it's things like this that I debate. Like, I'm quite happy with where my game knowledge is at right now. I think there's always cool things more to learn, but it gets to a point where it's just not valuable anymore. You know? Anyway, let's get back into the game. So, Broxer just covering his mid laner because he's not entirely sure where Sejuani was. What Sejuani did was reset and then path towards bot. Humanoid once again looks for a bit of a roam. There's no vision here. Xerxes will spot out a ward, so no gank, but he's going to help them shove out mid. But as we said, we wanted to see Xerxes play through his bot lane. While he hasn't been able to find any successful plays yet, he is still playing through his bot lane. Now, the biggest mistake I feel Xerxes has made this game is that he's allowed a lot of his jungle to be lost, but of course not all of it is his fault, because Vizicachi died top 1v1. He ends up losing some of his topside camps, which obviously hurt him, and Xerxes wasn't expecting that to happen. But on top of that, he did go for a gank bot, so he also lost his Raptors. So he's late in his level 6, which gives Broxer an opportunity to then look for a play, and he's playing around his top side of the map, which is once again what we expected. We wanted to see Fnatic play through Bwipo, and he's doing just that. So both junglers kind of doing what we expected them to do so far this game. Broxer's done a pretty good job of utilizing where he has pressure in order to steal away camps. And I don't really have many criticisms so far for what he's done this game. Or any, really. Broxer will get spotted out by Ward. Xerxes here once again. So, like, you can see that he's heavily investing his time around the bot side of the map. But even then, Kobe's still at a CS deficit. A large part of it is because Reckless set up a pretty good freeze earlier on. And Kobe couldn't overextend because he didn't have vision in the river. Vizicachi forced to flash once more. This matchup is clearly a lot harder than what I thought anyway. Aha! Bwipo, my boy! Let's have a look. So jungler resets. Bwipo doesn't know. But, so this is the debate, right? Now, if, in theory, Fnatic or Broxer should know that Xerxes should be pathing towards top. Because you know that the blue buff is alive because you're the one that killed it and you get to see that the enemy blue buff is alive. And that is likely where Xerxes is pathing next. So he should be communicating with Bwipo, hey, enemy jungler is topside. Bwipo doesn't respect this. Vizicachi baits him in. He goes for an all-in that he doesn't realize is actually a trap, and the trap is sprung. Vizicachi walks away with a kill. Now, of course, Broxer doesn't waste time. He paths towards bot and he threatens a potential dive, but of course he knows that given a kill top happened, you can assume that the Rift Herald is being started, which means that he himself then starts off the Drake. Of course, the duo of Kobe and Norscaran now get forced away from the tower, and you can see like the discrepancy that's now building between the bot lane. If we backtrack a little bit earlier, you can see like this farm discrepancy being built up and up and up and up. And I think a large part of it is how well Reckless has been managing the lane. In terms of the 2 versus 2, I think that he's been playing this pretty well. Or maybe Kobe's just been missing CS, like, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's a combination of the two, but I saw a couple instances earlier where Reckless was kind of freezing the wave just outside his tower and Kobe couldn't really approach. It's one of the things about Tristana where you just naturally push. But again, Xerxes hanging around bot side of the map. At this point, oh, I mean, like, yeah, we've backtracked, of course, but you can see that the farm is relatively even at this point, and then they both choose to reset because Xerxes is resetting. Oh, no, they don't. They stay for another wave. Okay. So what are they doing bot? They reset here, right? Yeah, they reset here. So the reset is a little delayed, but it's not the end of the world. But of course, he gets spotted top. I think Broxer mainly just wanted to cover bot because they wanted a base. Or maybe maybe he's just covering bot, setting it for Drake maybe. Because Nemesis gets the push in mid and then he rotates down. And so they do a cross map play. But Kobe and Norscaran, you can see like that CS difference is now ballooning. But of course Kobe has a kill, so it's not the end of the world. But then of course they can threaten a dive. So Nemesis then comes bot. Good stuff from both teams, to be honest. I quite liked it. I mean, the big mistake there was Bwipo. It was either Bwipo or Broxer, depending on your perspective, right? Because either Bwipo should have been given the knowledge that the enemy jungler was top, or Bwipo could have looked at the minimap himself and inferred the decision himself. Yeah. But there was enough evidence on the minimap to determine that the jungler, there's a possibility of the jungler being topside, and they had to prepare for that. Now we get to see the Hylissang special, where he roams around the map, literally everywhere, and he helps his team gain push. Of course, they then trade this once again for push in bot, and you think about the advantage that they gained, and then Kobe just gets 3 plates for himself, and they put the Rift Herald mid. So again, really great answer from Splyce. I liked what they're doing. I like a lot of the decision making here. So if you like backtrack a little bit, the duo resets after securing those plates, but of course Kobe never needs to base or reset, so he gets to reach lane first. But notice the difference in what the supports do right now. So Hylissang is communicating with his team that we can look for a dive top, or maybe a play mid, whereas Norscaren's focus is going back to bot lane. And you can just see the difference in ideology between the two supports, where Hylissang often looks for roams and plays around the map, very similar to Mickey, whereas Norscaren much more prefers to play with his lane, and then afterwards he moves up towards mid. But again, his positioning makes sense because Xerxes has the Herald, so he wants to be there, get some flanking vision off, threaten Nemesis, and also set up for the Herald where they can get towers. And the GP ult gets used top to slow them down, which then allows Splyce to secure the first tower. So like, really good decision making from both teams in my opinion. I think this is smart. And Kobe should be able to get first tower of the game. Meanwhile, Reckless is just forced to sit underneath the bush, wait for the wave to come to him. And Humanoid gets plates mid. So overall, net neutral because Fnatic had a slight goal lead from the farm differences. But Splyce have now closed that out with all the plates and early tower stuff that they got. So yeah, that was cool. I like that. So now we have to kind of track lane assignments. Before I get there, I have a quick read of the chat. Does anyone have any questions? Is this the moment where Wave was fucked by Vizzy earlier and Bwipo took the risk to shove it in? Shouldn't Broxah come help Bwipo? I mean, like, it's helpful if Brox is there to cover, but I think Bwipo just overextended a little bit. Like, in that time where his wave is screwed, he also could have looked for a roam mid or something. There are things that Bwipo could have been doing in that period of time where I don't think he needed to. Also, I think he had enough time to be able to clear out the wave. He obviously had to be careful, but he got the flash out of Izachachi, and then he got baited into another fight, which is where he made the mistake. So Broxah also increased Kai'Sa lead by pathing bot. Yeah, he did. So, like, you were just making a trade, right? So even though Bwipo's lane was kind of screwed, you can also make the assumption that given that Reckless and Hylissang are pushing out the wave, Splyce might try to take advantage of this, and Xerxes could sacrifice his farm top in order to make a play bot. So there's always that potential. So Broxah is like pathing bot and saying Xerxes could be bot, but he could also be top, so just be careful, Bwipo. We don't have information on where he is right now. That could have been the communication. I don't know. Feel like Klepto Humanoid versus Nemesis? Yeah, I don't know how bought into I am with the Kleptomancy. I don't know how often you proc it. But again, both champs are relatively short range, so you could get some value. Broxah could have backed earlier and went top instead. Let's have a look. Which play are we looking at? It's way before all this, isn't it? Because it's here. Okay, so we gotta look at where Broxah was. Okay, so we're just tracking Broxah now. So the bot lane reset, Broxah reset along with his bot lane, which is fine. I don't know if Hylissang reset or not. Broxah's pathing towards bot side because I think that's where his camps are respawning. Yeah, that's why he paths bot. That's actually the main reason. He doesn't actually take his camps though. How interesting. Why does he abandon his camp to go bot? You get spotted on a ward. Was he really trying to gank this? I'm not sure. I wonder why he chose to sacrifice. Oh, he didn't sacrifice the camp. He cleared it out and then he pathed bot. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I guess he was just like either covering or he was looking for something. But that's why he's bot lane right now. He's just reset. And Xerxes is now pathing top. Now, admittedly, he could have done that and then immediately gone to top side. My question is, what is Broxah doing now? Because notice that they have no idea where Sejuani is, yet he already starts pathing towards the Drake. So either he's looking for a potential gank mid, or he's threatening a dive bot. Or he's using the opportunity that the Tristana just reset in order to gain some vision, because he knows that his bot lane has priority. And then he makes the decision to go for Drake after recognizing the top just died and they're going to be securing Herald. So I don't think Broxah necessarily should have like gone back to base earlier to then rotate up to top. I'm just curious as to what his initial decision making was, which was this bit. See Broxer on the minimap? See how he clears his wolves? You know that your top side is respawning next, so he could have started pathing top. But he doesn't. He starts pathing bot. And again, we know that Fnatic know that Tristana's just gone back to base. They have that information. So it could be that Fnatic's bot lane is saying, hey, bot has just reset, come bot, cover us, get some vision or whatever, because nothing's going on here. Could be. I mean, it's all just speculation, right? I don't have any certainty here. I mean, it could be that he wanted to threaten a dive. Or, like, in this situation again, because you can see Tristana's gone back to base. By making his presence known bot, it zones them away from the tower, so it gives more plates. Don't know. Either way, it ends up working out. Do I think that there's any fundamental flaw in what Bwipo did? Or Broxer? No. Do I think Bwipo could have gotten out of that situation? Yes. I would say the mistake there was Bwipo got greedy for a fight and didn't assess all of the available information, which I think he had access to, even if Broxer didn't give it to him. He could have made that inference, I think. And then, of course, they roam top, and then they just kill him. And they're just like, haha! Got him! And then we just talked about this, about how they then made the cross-map play bot. So that was pretty cool. I like this play. Dun 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 bum 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 bum. Alright, so what happens now? Well, plates are about to fall. Splyce want mid tower. They also have decided to put their AD carry top. Thing is, there are no neutral objectives to take. So again, this is where LS may tell you that you can freeze. I disagree, but again, I'm not actually an expert. Maybe LS wouldn't say you can freeze here. Okay, so they actually just send Tristana top to push the wave out, and then notice how he doesn't push it past the river, and then he groups mid. But I'm not really sure what like the Corki is doing now. So now you just have, okay, now they send the Corki up to top. So they just had the Tristana catch the wave, and then they brought okay, so this makes more sense to me. This is more of what I expected. Notice how Reckless is sitting in a bot lane alone, yet Nemesis is holding with Hylissang. This is a very Fnatic thing to do, where again you're like funneling resources into Reckless, because the problem you have with sending your duo mid is that, oh, I'm an idiot, they were setting up for Drake, that's why they did it. The reason why you send your AD carry mid is because they have the best wave clear, and they have the best setup and threat towards the tower. However, by doing that, you're always grouping up with other people, which means your experience is shared. However, if you keep them in a side lane, they keep getting solo experience. Which means that Reckless might not be getting more gold than he was getting in mid lane, because the gold shouldn't really be any different, but he is getting more XP. And you can't just leave Reckless alone in mid, because, well, then he dies. So, what Splyce were doing is they were setting up for this objective, but of course they reset, so they conceded pressure around the Drake. Drake spawns, no control over it, which means that Fnatic can just rush this down. Bwipo has no teleport, and it's gone. And they fought. No, push mid, 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 mid. Okay, a couple things. Number uno. This is something that Splyce do a lot. So in terms of lane assignments, remember they could have kept the gangplank top. Remember that they wanted to play around Drake. So because Bwipo doesn't have teleport, if Splyce had sent Vizichachi top, What they could have done is they could have just kept him pushing, and he could have been threatening that top tower while Fnatic was starting the Drake. I think. Because if we go back to the lane assignments, so here, so this was, yeah, so the bot lane reset after taking the tower. Gangplank is hanging around, not resetting with the rest of his team. Now, if the Gangplank here resets, yeah, I actually think this was a huge mistake from Itachi. Like, notice how he's, like, in his head, he doesn't need to reset. Okay, fine. He doesn't need to reset. He just pushes an extra wave in. But I think that if he had just reset with the rest of his team, even if he doesn't buy anything, he can then go catch top. You can send the Tristana mid, and you put Corki bot. Or you can even send the Corki top. Point is, you want to be threatening that top tower, and then setting up for a potential fight for Drake. But what they do, and again, we're looking at Splyce here, they push out top, they bring the Tristana down, they use their numbers in order to gain access to the river. They don't actually have that much vision. So they try to gain access to the river without any vision. Bwipo has already reset. And then the Corki goes up top to catch the wave. So they move through the river again. Gangplank has to push in bot. Reckless is forced to back off. And now notice how Fnatic have already reset. So they have this thing called tempo right now, because they're back out on the map sooner before Splyce, which means they gain access to the river first, which means they get to start the objective first. So I think Splyce mismanaged their resets a little bit there. I think Fnatic was just much better in terms of their actual setup. Notice they were just on time for just as the Drake spawned. They had mid pushed in on top of having bot pushed in. And now Xerxes tried to force an engage, which I don't think Bwipo needed to flash away from, but Splyce ended up trading it for a mid tower, which is good. And that's part of the reason why Xerxes forced that fight, to keep Fnatic in the river, to provide time for Kobe to siege onto the tower. So the takeaways there, I think, are that Splyce, even though like Gangplank doesn't get anything from basing, I think that if he does just base, he can reset back out onto the map with the rest of his team, and they can better set up the map to threaten the Drake. But they don't, so there you go. So Fnatic walk away with the Drake. Now they're playing around bot. Notice that they don't have Primo mid, so this siege on bot is a little dangerous. But again, notice how Reckless is being left isolated. They tried to funnel all this extra solar farm onto him, whereas Hylissang now spends a lot more time around Nemesis. Just supporting him, encouraging him, stroking his hair. Notice again how Broxer and Hylissang just sit in the river to deny any potential collapse, but then Splyce trade bot tower for top tower. Great utilization of pressure. They trade vision in both sides enemy jungle as well. Splyce could easily steal away the red buff here. The only difference is, again, Nemesis is faster on the play. Fnatic are just ever so slightly faster on a lot of these plays, so they get to reset and come back out onto the map, and this farm slowly gets lost bit by bit by the side of Splyce. So, like, it's not a huge amount, but they lose little pieces. And you can just see that they've traded. So, like, in my opinion, this is, like, it's not perfect, but it's, like, it's pretty smart League of Legends, you know? Like, they're trading pressure, they're playing around where they can in terms of the map. And it's all about scaling, right? But basically what you're doing is that the thing about a scaling comp is you have to recognize that you can't just fight for everything. And this is a really important thing that I want you guys and girls and everyone to walk away with. When you're playing scaling comps, you don't get strong by fighting. You get strong by waiting. Now, the problem by waiting is that the enemy can just starve you out of gold. Or they can build up a big enough gold lead that they can force you into fighting when you're not ready. So what you do is you leverage numbers and pressure in order to still gain golden advantages on the map. And you're effectively trading. So when Fnatic make a play bot, Splyce, rather than just sit there and watch, trade it for something else top. And even though their scaling comp is not built to fight, because they create a situation where Bwipo is 1 and Splyce are 3, it doesn't matter if their comp is about scaling. Those 3 people will kill this one guy. Unless he's like giga fed or he outplays them all. So they can trade for something elsewhere on the map. So you're keeping the gold coming in while also not just losing control over the entirety of the map. And this is something that you don't get to see very often. Now, I'm not saying that it's a extremely high level concept and that these teams' brains are so big that no team can compete. It's just that awareness from the 2 and 3 in Europe that they have a scaling comp and they don't want to fight. So neither team is fighting. And that's a really important distinction and something I want you to remember when like coming into the World Championship. Because North America and China will fight you. They will try to fight you. Because they don't understand or agree with this concept of like trading and scaling. They will contest you for these objectives. They will fight for you. And when you try to do that, you can end up getting punished. Which is where these things come in. So like, I just thought this was a cool opportunity to like highlight this situation and kind of bring attention to it. Now the LCK does exactly what you're seeing on your screen right now. They trade everything, right? They try not to fight. They'll utilize pressure and they'll exchange resources. And they'll say, well, okay, you can take that, but we will take this. And it's almost like a bit of a gentleman's agreement, you know? Is there... Wait, what white noise? Is there something that's really annoyed? Oh, sorry. Is it... Is that it? It was that? Okay. I mean, I get a little warm, but it should be fine. It's not super warm right now. Anyway. So I hope that concept makes sense. And it's can you put a bottom... Oh, keep it on, but you can put a bottom threshold on your mic to deal with it. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, I'll investigate that for the next VOD review. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm in the middle of recording. But yes, so like the reason why this is important is because it's something that a lot of North American teams do, and it's also something that a lot of LPL teams do. The difference is, like, I think LPL have slightly better instincts in knowing when they can and cannot fight, but that's not always the case. A lot of the times you look at the decision making from LPL and they're like, what the hell? But of course, the thing about LPL is because they have so many players of such a high skill ceiling, these fights that they shouldn't go for can actually work in their favor just because they're that damn good. So it ends up paying off for them, but not consistently. Anyway, I hope that was interesting. Let's get back into the VOD, and we'll concentrate on talking a little bit more about Fnatic and Splyce. So, right. So again, like, we'll kind of keep track of this concentrative pressure. So notice now, notice where the vision is now. So again, see on the minimap, no wards in the enemy bot side of Fnatic's camp. But the thing is, Reckless has just reset. This means that Splyce can gain priority in the mid lane, and they also know the positioning of Hylissang. So again, remember this concept of numbers. Splyce have 4 people around the bot side of the map, so they can collapse first. So Broxah gets forced out of his jungle, Nemesis is forced to play back, and they don't go for the fight. This gives Splyce full control of the enemy bot side jungle, ready for the next coming Drake, which will be a Cloud, right? So Splyce already thinking about the next Drake, and now what I'd like to see them do is they could either look for a quick reset, or they can just hang around and wait for the Drake. The first thing they need to do is get mid-prio. I don't really know what Norscarin's doing right now. I don't see the point in that. Oh, Vizicachi. See, and this is where I don't agree with some of the decision-making that Splyce made. And, like, this is where you can tie it into some of their mid-game issues. They set up all this great vision on the bot side of the map. Like, really good vision. So what Humanoid should be doing right now, in my opinion, is he should start moving towards the rest of his team, like Bwipo is. Do you see what Bwipo is doing? So again, notice what Bwipo does, right? So Bwipo pushes out top, he bases, and then he immediately goes to start grouping with his team. And look at the difference in Splyce. Look what Humanoid's doing right now. He's staying top. So Humanoid is just hanging around the top side of the map, and he's trying to debate if he can push out another wave or not. And for some reason, Norscarin is gaining vision on the top side of the map. But this is pointless, because Fnatic don't care about that. Fnatic have set their eyes on the Drake. So they're now grouping up. They're able to force pressure in the mid lane. And then Vizicachi, thinking actually that he's relatively safe because he has vision towards bot side, doesn't actually have a team. So he ends up getting collapsed upon and killed. So while initially this looks like a fault at Vizicachi, it's actually just the other members of Splyce for some reason trying to get vision towards top side when their game plan is very clearly to play towards the Drake. So Vizicachi ends up getting punished. So now this gives them prio over mid. I'm surprised that they didn't go for the Drake personally. Now, of course, because Humanoid did have push bot, he's able to trade this for some chip damage top. But of course, he's 1 versus 5 in mid, so he doesn't able to secure the tower. But Fnatic get that mid tower. And but this is a great illustration of some of the mid game problems that Fnatic Splyce have. And the thing is, I can't say for sure where these problems come from, but you guys can see what's happening on the map, right? You can see how this vision setup, in my opinion, is a clear indication that they're going for the dragon that spawns in 45 seconds. This vision is going to last for 3 minutes. Fnatic have to clear it out. So while they're using their vision to clear this out, Splyce could actually get ahead and they could push out these waves in mid and they could just play towards the bot side. But they don't. There's 25 seconds left, and then they start playing towards top so that Humanoid can look to push this wave. And again, if Splyce didn't want to contest this Drake, then their game plan should have been different. They shouldn't have used all of their vision on the bot side of the map. They should have been trying to gain prio and setting up vision around Baron. That should have been their goal. And this should then allow Humanoid to push in the top side. But if I'm Vizicachi, I'm looking at this, and my brain is well, I have full vision bot. I'm fine. I can walk through the river. Never mind. I don't have a team. Does that make sense? It's like they're trying to play the whole map at the same time. Yeah, they kind of are. But then, of course, they get punished by the likes of Fnatic. Because Fnatic know, we have 5 people. We know we have access to the river. We got information on where Norscarin was because we just saw him try to clear a ward. We know we can go for this fight. So they go for it. So Fnatic walk away nice and happy. They pick up everything. So now this should propel their gold lead a decent amount. So what happens now? Well, Baron obviously becomes the next point of contention, but both these teams are debating whether they're strong enough to actually fight for it. Now, if you look at Fnatic's comp, you can see that in terms of itemization, they're very happy. They're like, I like this. I like this a lot. But the Muramana or Manamune or whatever it's called is not fully stacked yet on Reckless, so they want to wait for that. They might want to wait for another item on Nemesis as well, because as someone that's played a decent amount of Cassio, these items look good, but you want to be a little bit stronger. Okay. So, this, in my opinion, is an example of someone getting caught out on a side lane. So, you can see Humanoid, this is definitely him overextending. Because his team doesn't quite have pressure set up on the map just yet. And they also see that Humanoid sees the collapse coming through. Now, this is good from Splyce to trade this for the top tower. And this is what you'd call a cross-map play. And Splyce come out ahead here because they trade an objective for a kill. And Whippo is not going to have a wave in time for him to threaten anything. So what they should do now is push out that wave mid and then reset. So you see Kobe resets right now. Vizicachi resets right now. Now Whippo is in a very precarious spot. Very lucky. So now we don't want to see Splyce invest all their vision on the bot side of the map. We want to see them keep spreading towards top. I don't mind a ward here and there to give Vizicachi some information and clarity on how he pushes. Now I think that right now, given where he is on the map, he's in a very dangerous state, Vizicachi. I feel like pushing past the river is really dangerous. He has vision or information on where the Gragas is, and I guess that gives him enough comfort, but he doesn't know where Odoamne is. Sorry, he doesn't know where Bwipo is, nor does he know where Hylissang is. He could have been collapsed on there, and you can see they're even setting up for a collapse. But I think that was dangerous. This time he goes around, he gets spotted, and he groups up with his team. This is something you see Splyce do a lot. They force group, probably more often than they should, where Vizicachi, even though he has teleport... Have you guys seen Vizicachi use teleport once this game? Something that Splyce do a lot. They just bring their top laner in. Now Fnatic trade pressure, because they gain prior over mid. They exchange it for vision in the river. But of course now... Ooh... And Fnatic try to start the Baron, but they skip some steps. Because the problem is, like... So this is always going to be a gamble, right? But they're like, hey, we have full river control, but they don't have mid prio. They don't push an extra wave. And they don't actually sneak into the back of the pit. They also don't have the top wave in their control. So I think that this is not a good time for Fnatic to try and sneak this. I think the whole map state is like, they don't have push top, they don't have push bot, and they didn't gain mid prio either, which means that Splyce get to access the river first, and this is where the fight kicks off. So we'll slow the game back down. So he dies instantly. Norscarin trades his life as well, and then Vizicachi comes in from the flank. Oh, there's his first TP. So this flight is now looking fantastic for Splyce, because that was a huge mess up for Fnatic. That was ultimately a greedy Baron. But this is where Bwipo, and this is why I think Bwipo deserved MVP of the game. So look at this. So something I was told was that Kobe didn't use his flash. He has his flash up here. I think he tries to buffer his W to try and get out of it. But also, I think he thinks that Bwipo is going to try and E to get away. Instead, he E's to go in. And then he gets one shot. And because he dies, they lose the fight. Yep. But if Kobe lives here, Splyce win the fight, they get Baron. And then all of a sudden, this game is super Splyce favored. But in the fights they get, but this is why this is personally why I voted. Well, I mean, I don't get a vote, but player of the game, Bwipo. I wanted him to have player of the game just because of this single play. What was effectively a bad play for Fnatic ended up working out, or like going the best case scenario for them, just because Bwipo managed to kill Kobe. So there you go. No, he's not fine, because the moment... So someone said Kobe is fine as long as he doesn't get hit by Kai'Sa W. But a mark gets applied to him here, I'm pretty sure. Does it not? Because you just need CC to apply a mark. Oh, I guess he doesn't actually have a mark up. No, I'm sure he does. He must have a mark, because Reckless ults before the W hits. See? He's ulting before the W hits. So Kobe's dead here regardless. I mean, sure, the W damage for the execute, but like, the reality is Kobe getting hit by this is what loses them the fight. That's what loses them the fight. So yeah, think of how differently this game could have been if... This is why we also talked in the cast about like different decisions, like the smallest of things. The smallest of different decisions or plays could have changed the outcome. But you can see how one-sided this fight is. Like, they were so screwed. And then Fnatic, like, actually go for what is a big brain Baron, in my opinion. Because Splyce members are still dead, but even though they're not, Xerxes, because he was one of the last people to die, takes so much longer to get there when Brox was the first person to die. Fnatic's like, we can actually do this. And Kobe can't stop them. Yep. Splyce refused. And this is where, like, I know it's hard because of the miasma, but this is where I'm like, just go in. Just stop them. Just try. But yeah, they don't. And then lose Baron. I personally think this was pretty big brain from Fnatic. This is where I think like instincts are really good, and like the experience of the players, knowing, hey, Xerxes is dead. It's going to take him ages to get here. We all have TP. We can all TP into the pit. Just commit. And I think this was a pretty safe Baron. Kobe does get his revenge kill, but it doesn't matter. Fnatic walk away with the Baron. I really like that play from Fnatic. This is why I think it all came down to teamfight execution. But so far in this game, we've seen a couple things. We had a good example of like some of Splyce's mid-game issues, where when it comes to some of the objectives, it feels like that they get a little bit disorganized. We also got to see like both teams are pretty aware in terms of being able to trade map states. Trade map states? That doesn't make any sense. Trade objectives on the map and avoid fighting. But then when they needed to fight, they did fight. And both teams were pretty strong. And that fight could have gone either way. But yeah, I think in that moment, Fnatic should have been screwed. And then they weren't. But this is also the difference between Fnatic and Splyce. The caliber of players. Even if you think that they're both intelligent teams, which I think they're both pretty intelligent teams personally, I think Fnatic just have better players. So in these clutch situations, the Fnatic players often come out on top. It's just the reality of it. And this is where I think like skill expression is often seen, because in my opinion, teams should initially be judged on how well they understand the game, because it's all well and good having good players, but if those players don't work together and they just get exploited by better and smarter map movements, then like the strength of a player doesn't really matter. And often at the highest level, the gap between players isn't so big that like it'll cost you a lane or people will die 1v1. However, if both teams are equally skilled, and if both teams have like players who are close, it is those like 0.5 differences between players that in those moments can carry you over the edge. So that's where players like Reckless do have a lot of value. Because is he so much better than players like Upset and Kobe? Probably not. But in those teamfight situations or in the clutch moments, when you need that extra 0.5, yeah, he probably is. It's interesting, right? It's cool. Anyway, I stopped actually talking about the game and like tracking what the fudge was going on. So let's have a look. So after securing the Baron, they force group mid. They probably should have sent someone bot, but because none of them had teleport, they all wanted us to be like, let's stay together in case Splyce engage on us. Because if we die, that'll be sad. So they tried to push out top. Problem is, I think Splyce is pretty overextended, considering Nemesis is just being left bot lane. And they're just like, well, we have Baron, so we're fine. And Splyce can't really siege onto a Baroned up team, so they end up losing their bot tower. And they also had no vision control bots, so there was the risk of them getting dived. But now all of them are bot lane. And notice how Reckless is now pushing in mid, and then Whipple goes back to top. So right now, Fnatic are just managing their ways a little bit better. It is, of course, easier because they have the Baron buff. Well, now Baron's gone. They've kept the Gangplank bots. Is he doing Krugs? Okay, I don't think he should be doing Krugs right now. Your base is being sieged on. Krugs is probably not the best thing to do. What is he doing? He is doing Krugs, right? He's doing Krugs. Yeah, he's doing Krugs. So I think he doesn't even need to push this wave out. He should be looking to base, or he should be looking to group mid with his team. Because he doesn't have teleport. Now that was a little greedy from Bwipo. A little overzealous, I think. Cost them a tower. Does Vizichachi cost them a tower? Probably not. But hey, they generate pressure bottom mid. The question is, what do they use their time? Now, Vizichachi delays his base. Okay, three players reset at the same time. Fnatic still concede vision control over river. Sorry, Splyce still concede vision control over river. Damn, Splyce pushed these sideways out all the way. I should ask them about this. Because I'm surprised. Like, it doesn't feel like the right decision to me. It feels like Splyce should be trying to group more often. So, like, when I sit here and I see this Corki pushing this wave all the way out, obviously they have information on where Fnatic are, but, like, why is Vizicachi grouped with them? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, Corki can push out this wave, and like, now, Corki can just start moving down. Because notice how Fnatic have not actually moved into mid yet. They're in the bot side jungle. But if Humanoid comes down, they can actually force Prio mid. Because they'll have 5 people. Which means they can then force Fnatic out, and they can reclaim control of the bot side of the map. Ready for when Baron spawns. But he doesn't. He stays an extra wave top. But this is just what I'm thinking, right? Should Humanoid stay for an extra wave top lane? If he comes down, can they gain Prio mid? Because what they actually gain right now is Prio around Baron, because like he's pushed topside, and that's the strong side of the map right now. So Northgaren can move up through there. But of course they lose pressure bot. So I'm debating if it's worth it. So you notice now Corki's here. Alright, well, to be fair, okay, this is a bad example. Ignore what I just said. So Fnatic reset, that's fine. They actually abandoned top wave to go contest Drake. That's cool. I like that. They're obviously 2-8 to the wave though. And then, oh, Vizicachi. Once again, he comes in through the river and he gets punished. Just go around, broski. I guess he assumes that they're looking to fight here, but Splyce don't have proper vision set up. Also, I'm looking at those wards and I'm like, Bwipo gonna flank. Bwipo's gonna flank him. Bwipo's gonna flank him. But then, of course, he's there with the team, isn't he? So then again, Splyce concede. And they're like, alright. Okay. Oh, God. Okay. Okay. So, if Splyce wanted to fight, they could have potentially done it here. But because they don't have any vision, because I think, again, it comes back to this point where they didn't try to get vision, they just traded bot side control for top side control. Like, let's just appreciate that Fnatic has had the better Drake setup pretty much this entire game. Splyce have made questionable decisions around this dragon. Now, to be fair, they haven't tried to fight for the dragon, which is good. Like, you know, they traded mid tower for Drake, which I think is fine. And here, I mean, the mistake ultimately lies with Vizicachi because he tries to come through the river again and his team is in a position to help him, so they get poked out, and then they do gain mid prio, and they use that prio to then move into topside. Now, Fnatic's like, what are you doing, guys? Northgaren goes all the way around trying to set up a flank. And Fnatic's like, yeah, no. Stop that. Stop it right now. Get off. Get off Baron. So then they get forced out, which then gives Fnatic prio back over mid, and then look what Fnatic do. They use their prio to get deep vision on the enemy jungle. Oh, and then Humanoid dies. So Humanoid comes back to mid lane. Oh yeah, and this is the big mistake from Humanoid. I mean, it was great play by Reckless, to be fair. And then a fight starts, and then Bwipo's like, I never die! And then they get to go threaten the Baron! Woohoo! Hello, Baron! Kabe's like, get away from the... Never mind. Never mind. Oh, and this all started once again because Splyce chose not to contest for bot side vision. Like, it all started here. Notice how initially Splyce have the bottom side of the map in their control. Vizichachi bases. So does Xerxes. They then keep Humanoid top. And because they keep him top, Splyce are at a constant numbers disadvantage because Nemesis is bot side of the map. So they never reclaim control over their bot side jungle, which means Fnatic have the optimal setup for Drake. So they then reset. Splyce then have to spend their vision clear and tools in order to gain a little bit of access into the river but gain no control over it. So Fnatic is still in a position where they can contest. And then because they force Splyce into an awkward situation, they then can't contest the Drake. So Fnatic secured the Drake. And then for some reason Splyce, rather than resetting the map, decide to force Baron, which they're never going to be able to do. So they disengage, and I feel like you can start to see the panic come through from Splyce, where they're like, in these high intense situations, having to make a decision 33 minutes into the game when the game is super close. And that is when players like Reckless take advantage of you. Very small mistake. Humanoid, he just wants to group with his team. He thinks if he clears this out, he can group. And even though Reckless walks over a wall, Humanoid misses it. He doesn't see it. And he dies. So then a fight kicks off. Good ulti there from Xerxes onto Nemesis, but the damage is done. And there you go. You can see how it all cascaded one into the other, right? It's really cool. Really, really cool. I like it. Big host. Thanks for the hope, lol sleeping. I don't know who lol sleeping is. But thank you very much for the host. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. We're looking at Fnatic versus Splyce right now. So what happens next? What happens next? Well, Fnatic have the Baron and they get to start sieging. They only need to play through 2 lanes. They actually only play through 1 because something happens to Humanoid again here. What, he just gets hit by a W? Yeah, he just gets hit by a W. And Reckless is like, get out of here! So that's cool. And then they just see... Okay, I wish that they would set up the wave at least a little bit on top. Ooh, that's a good flank. That's a great flank. And then they just burst the engage. Let's slow that. I don't know why I have this on double speed at this point. Boom. Oh, look at that sidestep from Humanoid, though. That's good. That's cool. Look at Humanoid here. Look at Humanoid. Wabang! Dodges the Cassio ulti, dodges the Q. Nemesis gets a fatty movement speed buff, though, from his phase rush. And he's like, nyom! Ooh, and that shield just barely protects him. But then Humanoid makes a big misstep. And he W's into Bwipo's range, and Bwipo's just like, goodbye. Imagine if he survives there. So then Kobe goes over the wall, finds that quick pick. And then the Nemesis TP in. And they're like, oh, can we kill him? Can we kill him? And he's like, no. But then, of course, it's Kobe versus Nemesis. And Kobe's like, yeah, nah. And then the 1v1. He's like, I can do this. No, I can't. Again, though, clutch moments. In the high-pressure situations... Humanoid dies. And again, like, I feel, to me, this feels just like a difference in experience, right? Just that difference in mentality. Humanoid goes in because he thinks, I can make the play, I can carry this, I can do it. and then doesn't stop to think in that moment. He doesn't take a second to like appreciate his surroundings, and he ends up getting punished. I can't say for sure, right? Again, this is just pure speculation that I'm making right now. But I feel like this is just that slight difference in experience, you know, the second to stop and wait. And then, like, you know, you look at Nemesis in this situation, and he's like, okay, well, they're all low health. I mean, he starts TPing in to try and, like, he starts TPing in now. And I would argue that this TP is super dangerous. But he's looking at those health bars, and he's like, I can do this. And he's, like, assessing his situation. And, you know, he's right. He can do it. His AD carry didn't believe him, I guess, but... How cool, though, right? Super cool. And in the end, this game is coming down to these late game team fights. Map movements and setup become less relevant. The only thing you're now tracking is things like how you control your side waves when trying to play around these big neutral objectives. Like Dragon and Baron. So Dragon started up again. Let's have a look at what Fnatic does. So Fnatic, well, of course they have super minions, so they're able to get a bit more priority in mids. They haven't even taken care of their bot wave. Oh, well, okay. Splyce tried to contest them in controlling that. Oh, like, look at that miasma from Nemesis. Super good. And then Norscarin tries to help his mid laner out, and he ends up just getting killed. Yep. Another mistake there from Humanoid, to be honest. And then Kobe! Look at that awareness. That I can do it. So many small things could have been the difference maker in this series. So many little things. Yep. But that's why I'm quite excited to watch these guys rematch, because I think it's like, it's pretty close. I think like you can see the difference, and it's like there's plenty of evidence in this game alone as to why you would put Fnatic above Splyce. But in my opinion, we've seen little mistakes, like Fnatic trying to force that early Drake at that Baron was super dangerous. They didn't like assess the map state well enough. Splyce fumbling in terms of setting up for some of their Drakes. Like it's just a lot of setups that they're fumbling in, I feel. And then in terms of these teamfight execution, Fnatic are just that slightly better teamfight team. Only slightly though. And at this point it's just like, engage! Die! Yeah. Great game though. Fun game to watch. I liked it. I thought it was pretty high quality game. Like again, we saw mistakes, right? And coming into playoffs, these mistakes can be exploited. They're not invulnerable. There are weaknesses within these teams. And again, like I want to reinforce, if that team fight around the first Baron had gone in favor of Splyce, they would have secured the Baron and the game would have been very different. Yep. But that was because Fnatic made a mistake and Splyce had the opportunity to punish. And in reality, what's ultimately happened in this game is Splyce has just made a couple more mistakes than Fnatic has, and both teams have been trying to punish each other's mistakes. But that's cool in my opinion. The fact that throughout this game, it's all been about every time someone messes up, the other team has a good enough awareness of how they can punish them for it. Kobe goes down. Fnatic win the team fight, and the game is done. Cool though, really good game. Really good game. I thought that was cool. I thought it was fun. Thought it was pretty interesting. We learned some cool stuff. I I think you can be pretty optimistic about both these teams, like in terms of going to Worlds. Like they have a pretty solid grasp on the fundamentals. I think the execution in some of them is lacking, and I think that we can see it in the form of Splyce. And I think that Fnatic, to a lesser degree, like it exists in Fnatic, but they're just a little bit more cleaner in their setups. They're a little bit more patient, and I feel that they're better in terms of their execution as well. So like, there's not much of a hill to climb for Splyce to close the gap, but I still think that there is a bit of a gap between Fnatic and Splyce. However, in terms of what some of the other competition I've seen, like in the likes of SK Telecom and Team Liquids, I think that Splyce would do fine against those teams. Would I put them as favorites? Probably not. But my bigger question would be, would these teams have the awareness to punish them? And based on how those teams have been playing right now, the answer would be no. So, yeah, like, it was pretty cool. I enjoyed watching that game. Anyway, YouTubes, thank you for watching. That's going to do it for this VOD review. I hope you enjoyed. You can check out the other VOD reviews everywhere in the channel. But that's going to do it. I'll be back again next week to talk about playoffs and all the exciting games that we've got coming up. How many games I'm going to do is yet to be decided, but yeah, be sure to tune in soon because we've got some great games. So that's going to do it. Thank you, YouTube. Goodbye.